What if I told you that Canada, once celebrated for welcoming immigrants, is now seeing a rise in anti-immigration sentiment? The shocking truth is that this isn't just happening in Europe, as we have seen recently in the UK and Germany, or as we have seen constantly in the US. Canada is feeling it too. In today's video, I want to introduce you to something that is not being talked about: the surprising shift of heart and the reasons behind this change in hospitality. Not so long ago, I posted a video on this channel diving into life in Canada, where we explored the pros and cons for those who are considering moving to Canada. If you are new here, you probably missed it. The good thing is, I have provided a link to that video below this one, because you might want to check it out for some context on what living in Canada can look like. But today, we're asking a crucial question: why is Canada turning against immigrants? As a migrant myself, I need to dive in and find out what is driving this dramatic change. And if you feel the same way, then let's get on to it now when a thing unfolds. Hi, I am Asinga and welcome to Asinga Unfolds. As a migrant, I have faced the challenges and opportunities of immigration firsthand. With my background as a researcher and writer and experience volunteering with immigrant support organizations, I bring a unique perspective to this topic. The reason I am telling you all this is because today's topic is critical. After all, it touches on the shifting landscape of Canada's stance on immigration, a country known for its welcoming nature. My goal is to provide you with an in-depth, well-researched look at why these changes are happening and what they mean for both current and future immigrants and the Canadian public. Now, you'll hear this phrase a lot in this video, or something like it: Canada is the most welcoming country in the world. Or in a migrant's tongue, Canada has long been known for its immigrant-friendly policies. Honestly though, to a migrant, that is not just a phrase. It's a possibility, and hope, and new beginnings. Unlike many other countries, Canada's points-based immigration system and multicultural identity have made it a beacon for immigrants worldwide. For years, Canada has prided itself on being a welcoming land where diversity thrives. But what has changed? If you have been looking at different sources, Canada's high immigration rates have been a key factor in shaping its modern identity. The country has embraced millions of newcomers, contributing to a rich cultural mosaic that defines Canadian society. For instance, did you know that immigrants have accounted for nearly 75% of Canada's population growth over the past decade? This influx has not only enriched Canadian culture, but also driven economic growth, with immigrants playing crucial roles in various sectors and contributing significantly to the labor market. I am simply saying that for decades, immigration has been a cornerstone of Canada's growth and prosperity. But now we are seeing a shift in that very narrative. We now see gatherings of people of all ages chanting, "We want our country back," and "Immigrants out." Let's understand why attitudes towards immigration are changing. So, what is driving this surprising rise in anti-immigration sentiment in Canada? If you ask me, it is not just a minor shift. It's a significant change that is impacting public opinion and even policy. What I am about to tell you is not rooted in personal opinions or perspectives. Recently, we have seen a noticeable increase in anti-immigration rhetoric and actions across Canada. Take one of Canada's renowned provinces, for example. In Quebec, protests have erupted against the increasing number of new immigrants, with some arguing that the pace of change is too fast. It doesn't even stop there. But this fire of resentment is rupturing through other Canadian provinces such as Alberta and British Columbia. This feeling of angry displeasure can be easily noticed in different local debates, whether it's housing affordability or job competition has been linked to raising anti-immigration sentiments. There have also been polls from the beginning of this year indicating that nearly 40% of Canadians now believe that immigration levels should be reduced. This is a significant shift from previous years, when support for high immigration levels was widespread. When we get away from polls, the image on the ground depicts an even higher percentage rate. I guess that depends on where you find yourself or conduct a survey. What is rather obvious is that in some regions, this sentiment is reflected in local political platforms, with candidates campaigning on promises to tighten immigration controls. And that has not been the Canadian way for a long time. Not so long ago, politicians had shaped a format of inclusivity and hospitality as a structure for re-elections and getting into positions of power. As rapidly as things turn, one would question what really is fueling this change. Is it purely economic concerns, cultural tensions, or something else entirely? I actually took enough time to put this together and I figured out the reasons behind the shift. Being in such a position, I now understand why this anti-immigration sentiment is on the rise. And to bring you to the same spot, you will have to allow me to examine these three key factors. 1. Economic pressures, 2. Cultural tensions, and 3. Political influence. I have come to find that each of these plays a crucial role in shaping Canada's public opinion. But first, let's talk about economic concerns. Many Canadians are feeling the pinch of surging living costs, particularly in housing and healthcare. These were some of the sectors where Canadians had it cheap at a time when immigration levels were not so high. When houses increasingly became too expensive over time and jobs were seeing too much competition, many have been led to view immigrants as contributors to these problems, which now explains why there is this urgent displeasure and turn against immigrants. During my research, I came across a report from the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation that revealed how housing affordability has become a major issue, with many blaming increased demand on immigration. You can see clearly how many want to use immigration as their scapegoat. Not just a part of the public who thinks immigrants are taking from them or that immigrants are the reason for their individual life failures, but also politicians who are determined to use the narrative to secure positions in power, or those already in power fearing accountability for failed promises. Personally, I think there is more to the problems in Canada than immigration. It is obvious that the economic stress caused by inflation around the world and the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic has also heightened anxieties about job security and resource allocation. Moving on to the second factor. Just like many other countries that deal with immigration, Canada has cultural tensions too. As the country's demographic landscape changes, some individuals worry about losing their cultural identity. Regions like Quebec, which places a strong emphasis on preserving French culture, have seen increased opposition to immigration. I think that alone speaks to those "We want our country back" placards we see being held up by young individuals in many of these anti-immigration rallies. This concern about cultural dilution is also reflected in debates over language policies and integration practices. Some Canadians will tell you that they fear that these rapid demographic changes could erode their traditional values and national identity. I wonder what happened to inclusivity and what it has to offer, but maybe that is just me. Finally, on to our third factor. I hinted about politicians just earlier, but I think we should reconsider the role of politics in another way. In recent years, some politicians have capitalized on raising anti-immigration sentiment to gain support. I won't be mentioning any names, of course, but you can all see how such actions have led to more divisive rhetoric, policy proposals, often aimed at reducing immigration levels. From making it difficult for new arrivals to enter the country, access enrollment in the integration processes, or finding ways to undermine those who already got their asylum claims granted. In this political field, there are examples of certain political parties proposing stricter immigration policies and having used inflammatory language to appeal to voters concerned about immigration's impact on national security and economic stability. This political maneuvering has amplified public fears and contributed to the overall rise in anti-immigration sentiment. I find that whenever politicians fail to answer for their failures, they play this divide card, and it works all the time. When citizens ask questions or want to hold a politician accountable for things that are not going well, a politician simply points to the nearest migrant and goes, "That is the problem." It is funny, but unfortunately true. Before I ask you this question, I want to remind you to join our growing community by subscribing to our channel. I also encourage you to turn on your post notifications so you don't miss out on any of our upcoming videos. And take advantage of the comment section, as we would like to hear your feedback or opinions. That being said, allow me to ask you this. We just explored the three key factors aiding the rapid growth of anti-immigration sentiment in Canada. Which of these factors is the most significant driver of this shift? Or could it be a combination of all three? Leave your answer in the comments. Before we check each other's answers, I would like to delve deeper into each of these elements to get a clearer picture of the situation. While political debates and economic pressures fuel anti-immigration sentiments, we must not forget the human impact of this shift. Okay? Immigrants who have long seen Canada as a safe haven are now facing new challenges. That side of the story is also true. I don't know if some Canadians sort of push back on immigrants to prevent them from the challenges that could potentially be faced in the country, or if they are simply playing a different card. Either way, I can truly inform you that many immigrants, particularly recent arrivals, are reporting increased feelings of uncertainty and exclusion. Others have even experienced xenophobic incidents, which were previously considered rare in Canadian society. According to a German online platform that specializes in data gathering and visualization, Statista, the number of hate crimes motivated by race or ethnicity reported to police in Canada increased by almost 130 incidents in 2023. Putting that in comparison to the previous year, the platform is talking about more than 2,000 incidents. In more of the findings, the report stated that nearly 1 to 3 in 5 immigrants in Canada have faced discrimination or prejudice in that past year alone. There was a time when things were not as heated as are today. This evidence doesn't only shed a stark contrast to the country's usual image of tolerance and inclusion, but also projects a catastrophic future for thousands of immigrants in Canada. Beyond social exclusion, many immigrants are struggling with more practical challenges. You cannot believe the rising levels of homelessness among immigrants. It's very shocking, but also rooted in the scarce availability of affordable housing, and having a place to sleep becomes harder to find. Despite being one of the largest countries, Canada doesn't have enough infrastructure to cover its small population and, let alone, immigrants. In major cities like Toronto and Vancouver, new arrivals are finding it increasingly difficult to secure stable housing, with many even ending up on the streets or shelter if you are lucky. On top of fewer available homes and a heavily demanding society, decent housing has increasingly become expensive, and that is just the tip of the iceberg. Unemployment is another major concern. Despite Canada's need for skilled workers, many immigrants face barriers to entering the workforce. The lack of recognition for foreign credentials, where for many people from developing countries, your education papers or history may be trashed. This leaves you with two options: start school afresh despite being now older, or do something else that pays less but doesn't require education certifications. There are also language barriers and a competitive job market that leave many underemployed or unemployed. All this begs the question: is Canada's promise as a heavenly destination for immigrants starting to fade? I think that what was once seen as a land of opportunity has turned into a struggle to survive. I mean, when you look at the reality of homelessness and the lack of job opportunities casting a shadow over the once bright dream of a better life in Canada, if you speak to Canadians, you'll be shocked to learn that most of this doesn't just affect immigrants. I am told that it impacts all of Canadian society. A rise in division and polarization can weaken the social fabric, leading to tensions between communities that have long coexisted peacefully. Moreover, with immigration contributing significantly to Canada's workforce, limiting immigration could have serious economic repercussions, from labor shortages to slowing innovation. Remember, this is one of the top countries when it comes to low birth rates and an aging population. So immigration accounts for nearly 100% of Canada's population growth. It is estimated that by 2030, immigrants will make up to about 30% of the total population, which is one of the highest rates in any G7 country. I fear that such estimations may not come to realize if this sentiment continues to grow. We could see long-term consequences for Canada's global reputation as a diverse and a welcoming nation. Internationally, it may affect Canada's standing as a destination for skilled workers, students, and refugees. So, as anti-immigration sentiment rises, we must consider its broader impact, not just on those who are directly affected, but on Canadian society as a whole. And for many immigrants, I wonder what you think about this statement. Canada may no longer represent the land of opportunity it once was. While you grasp with that, the question of the moment is this: with the rise of anti-immigration sentiment, the future of Canada's immigration policy is now uncertain. Will the government maintain its pro-immigration stance, or will public pressure lead to a more restrictive approach? I am not so sure about the future, but I'm sure about now. So far, Canada's federal government has remained committed to high immigration levels. Somehow they continue to target over 500,000 new immigrants annually by 2025. focusing on filling labor shortages and supporting economic growth. However, local politics tell a different story. Again, in regions like Quebec, for example, political leaders have called for reduced immigration levels, citing concerns over cultural integration and housing. I think that in response to rising public concerns, we may see more restrictive policies emerge at the provincial level or during federal elections. There are some political parties that are already proposing changes like tighter immigration controls, caps on annual immigration numbers, or stricter requirements for foreign workers and students. These potential changes could have significant consequences for immigrants. We all know that a more restrictive policy could make it harder to enter or stay in Canada. For the economy, scaling back immigration could exacerbate labor shortages and slow economic growth, especially in key sectors like healthcare and technology. Now, all this brings us to these questions. 1. What's next for Canada's immigration policy? For me, the answer to that is more like a thought derived from the state-of-the-art observation. While the federal government remains supportive, raising public pressure in political discourse suggests that change may be on the horizon. Question 2. Can Canada balance its economic needs with this growing public concern? That I'll leave you to answer. As I said earlier, Canada is another country with the lowest birth rates and an aging problem. That list is actually dominated by countries from Europe and Asia. This next video explains more about this global issue that threatens humankind. Watch it now by clicking on the screen or a link below this video. You can also watch our recent video that walks you through the complex journey of buying your dream home in the United States.